to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast, episode 69. Ready on three, guys. One. We're going to say the word 1, 2, 3. Nice.
Dance Revolution.
Not all right. Hello, Internet. You're listening to No Limits, a PlayStation podcast. My name is Taylor. I'm joined by my co-hosts Sam and Brianna. All three of us are back in. How many weeks has it been? Like a few weeks since we've all been together?
Time is a flat circle. I have no idea anymore.
Well, but if you take time with a piece of paper and you fold the piece of paper in half, you poke a hole through it. Congratulations, you've just reenacted a scene from Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, Remember you can find the video version of this podcast over on youtube.com/SaveTheGameMedia every Tuesday. And while you're over there, make sure to subscribe to our channel. If you'd rather listen on audio, we are on all your favorite podcast services. We would love it if you could leave us a review. It helps us grow. We would love any feedback. If you want to support us and get early access to all Save the Game Media content, head over to patreon.com/SaveTheGameMedia and choose the tier that's right for you. Just like our current patrons did: Bucky Blue, Aman, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brenton Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and Lee Navarro. You can also check out our YouTube at Save the Game Media and Twitter at Save Game Media, and interact with us in the Discord. Links are all in the show notes. How are we doing?
I am unwell.
You said you had a cold.
I am very ill. Well, I say very ill. I'm ill. Been a busy week for me personally. Nothing bad, just busy. So I'm a bit worn out, more so than usual, and it's actually affected my body this time as opposed to just mental faculty.
Well, it always affects you. Higher stress weakens your immune system.
Yeah, so that's that. You didn't ask, but I might as well say because I'm talking.
No, not allowed.
What have I been playing? Nothing really.
You know, I've been waiting for one of these weeks where Sam would say he's not playing anything. And I think this is the first one in 69 nice weeks.
I mean, like, technically, I could include, like, Marvel Snap every, like, 5 minutes every so often, but I don't think that really counts.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, besides that, nothing really. You were trying to pin Red Dead Redemption on me, but no. That is a different member of my family. Probably still playing it. I don't know.
Let's see.
And also, I say still playing it because you said that it's been on there for quite a number of hours. It's probably just in standby, like paused, and he's gone off and done something else. I don't know.
Yeah, 5 hours now.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it does say you're playing video games right now.
I'm lying to you, obviously.
You're playing.
I'm actually playing Red Dead Redemption on my
with your feet,
on my laptop.
With your feet, right?
With my feet, yeah. Nice. So yeah, it's quite a boring answer from me this week. I usually have something interesting to say, but I don't. I'm afraid.
No, all good. I assume you've beaten Alan Wake 2 at this point.
I most certainly have. That was, I think I had finished it the last time I was recording. I can't remember. Again, illness and time being flat circle. If I hadn't, I was probably very close. It's real good, like real good. All of the praise it's getting is very well founded. I'm still thinking about it quite a bit. I legitimately think it actually does have quite a strong chance of winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards, which is bizarre to say considering its competition. We'll get to that though.
Nice. Bree?
What have I been up to?
Yeah.
I haven't really been doing much. I've been trying to catch up on some anime so that I could record Anime Cast yesterday.
Did One Piece end?
One Piece has not ended. I think that they're currently the manga, not the anime. The manga is in preparation for the final arc.
No. How many years has this been going on for?
Over 20.
Jeez.
So, but yeah, I don't know when it's ending. The joke is, I hope One Piece ends before World War III. So,
right.
anyway, so I've been watching New Girl.
I have friends who watch New Girl.
Oh, I've seen that show so many times and I love it every single time. It's so funny.
Yeah.
I love that show. Other than that, I watched Spider-Verse in concert, which was genuinely the perfect way to see it. The orchestra was an all women orchestra, and the only dude on the stage was a DJ, and he was a fantastic DJ. I started following him on Instagram. Yeah, it was amazing. Went and met Christopher Paolini. He was really nice and cool. I got his signature on a bunch of stuff. This is like one of the things I got. It's from the illustrated edition of Aragon, a print. And he signed this and then the other 2 books that I had with me. Yeah, that's what I've been up to. And working, of course. What about you, Taylor?
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks. I have been playing Spider-Man 2.
Taylor, I have a question.
What?
How often do you play games? And when you play, how long are your sessions?
I usually play games a few times a week, and they're usually 40 minutes to 90 minutes. I don't play games that much.
Yeah. That's what I was like. I was thinking, because if you average out your playtime, you're playing like 5 to 10 minutes a day.
Oh.
So that's why I was
probably more than that. I played a lot on Friday. I was like, I'm not going out. I just want to play Spider-Man. So that's what I did.
Do you go out every Friday?
No. Some Fridays.
What a crazy life you live.
I know. I know it is crazy. So I've been doing a lot of side stuff. I'm about wrapped up the Mysterium missions. I kept completing the missions, but I haven't been listening to the diaries that you get from completing every one. So I need to go do that before I complete the final mission. I also have Flint Marco's final mission to complete, and the final
Flint
mission.
Lockwood?
No.
Excuse me? Flint? Who's Flint Lockwood?
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Don't ask.
I love it. Flint Marco, Sandman, a little funny old guy. And I'm also done I also have the last mission of the Prowler stashes to do. So closing down a good number of side quests. The main story, I think, according to my home screen, I'm at like 58% of the main story. So I've just been really doing a lot of side content and trying to get spider bots when I can. I heard through the grapevine the final spider bot mission is very worth it. Oh, well.
I mean, some people would probably say no.
Okay.
I would say
some people.
Yes.
There are also some really cool, like, I'll call them cultural side missions for Miles that are excellent. And yeah, so I've been doing a lot of side stuff. I guess my only gripe is most of the side. Oh, I also have to do the last side mission for Visions Academy. for Miles,
Mhm.
which is like or I get a reward. But most of those missions were not very great, except for maybe one.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that last Brooklyn Visions thing where you get the reward, that's going to take you like 2 minutes.
I thought you were about to say it's going to take you 2 hours. I'd be like, what, Sam?
No, don't panic.
All right. Yeah.
You guys, I just went down a rabbit hole because I was going to ask Sam, like, oh, is there a British equivalent of Thanksgiving? Because Thanksgiving is coming up. But then I was like, I'm just going to Google it. But when I Googled, like, is there a British equivalent? It came up with so many answers that I was like, wait, why is somebody asking this? Like, is there a British version of Five Nights at Freddy's? Like, what? Who's worried about that?
It's not like the UK Office situation.
Well, unless people are misconstruing Five Nights at Freddy's with something real life like Chuck E. Cheese.
Maybe. Is there a British equivalent to Band of Brothers?
Anyway.
Why are people Googling these things?
Anyway, the main story of Spider-Man 2 is also very good. I have the black suit, and I have tentacles, so it's a fun time. I've just been pouring perks into all the symbiote powers. Peter's other regular powers, nowhere to be found on my abilities wheel. It's all symbiote. Mm-hmm. Why would you ever prefer a regular ability when you have symbiote powers? Like, did you keep any of the regular ones on there, Sam? Or you just go all symbiote? Be honest.
Well, I mean, as I was going through the story, I did what you're doing.
Good.
But good afterwards, there's certainly a mix, I would say.
Gotcha. Cool. So that's great. Yeah, I'm cosplaying, role playing as a Bully Maguire. So
of course,
it's great. You know, if there's a civilian nearby, you need to make sure to use an area of effect attack that pushes them over. So they need to know that Spider-Man is what I call Bully Maguire. Yeah, he's a bully. He's not a hero. He's a bully. All right.
Yeah.
He beats villains sometimes, but maybe he'll just knock you down too.
Yeah.
So, one question I have, Sam, maybe this is a low point for me narratively. And if it's a spoiler, I guess obviously answer carefully. Is Kraven's motivations for just wanting to find the most competitive prey, like does Kraven have any more motivation than he just wants to hunt the most challenging prey?
Yes. Okay.
Good. I've been hoping for that, and I'll be glad to. Oh wait, and I assume that'll be revealed in the game at some point, because
no, it's in an ARG. Currently got going on.
Wait, that's related to the game?
I'm joking. Of course, it's in the game. Taylor.
Okay, Sam. I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
Sam's like, I wrote a fanfic, so.
Okay, good. Because if that was motivation, I would have been like.
I mean, don't get me wrong. That is his motivation.
But
there's
as to
justifications behind the motivation.
Yeah. Why does he feel that way?
Indeed.
Okay, good. Because if that wasn't the case, I'd just be like, yo, Insomniac, this is a dull villain. You got to fix this. He is very daddy, though.
Yeah. He is.
My ears perked up when
Dude, he's got the fur coat. His pecs are bursting out of his body. He's like...
Looks like it would be a comfortable pillow. Okay.
Yeah, I think Kraven would be a comfortable pillow.
Okay.
Yeah.
As comfortable as Miguel?
No, I think Miguel will be less comfortable because he's leaner. Right. And there is 2099 suits in the game again, Bree. So.
Oh my god. Maybe someday when all of the games are on super sale, I'll be like, okay, maybe.
Right. But yeah, very good. Traversal is just getting better and better. And it's a very good video game. I really enjoy bouncing enemies off the ground when I'm in the air. Nice added addition. So Still running through that. Very eager to see who Venom will be. No one tell me. Maybe it's Aunt May. Oh wait, actually, nope, not going to say that. Okay, if you played Spider-Man 2018, you know why that's a horrible thing to say. Okay, I hope then I know. It's going to be Teo from the Bodega. Oh,
Yeah.
Bree in Spider-Man 2, there is a cat suit. Sorry, there's a suit where there's a cat in your backpack.
Okay.
And that's just
And the
always there.
cat is actively involved in some of the special moves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
All right,
really?
put it on.
If you do takedowns with that suit equipped, the cat gets involved.
Okay. You guys know that I love cats.
Right.
Watch that be the one thing that gets me into the game.
I'm also eagerly awaiting. Maybe it's either. Well, I feel like it'll have to be addressed here or in the sequel, Sam, or DLC. Norman Osborn is in the game. Where's my Green Goblin?
He sure is, Taylor. He sure is.
What is that supposed to mean?
I don't know. What is it supposed to mean, Taylor?
I don't know. All right. Maybe we should get into the news because there is some pretty significant news this week. And maybe I'll start with the first one then. Across gaming overall, the Game Awards is happening on December 7th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. That's 12:30 British time.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right, Sam?
I don't know.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let me ask you, Sam. Is it 5:38 p.m. for you?
It is.
There's
Okay,
an 8-hour
yep.
difference.
Cool, I'm right. So all the Game Awards nominees for all the categories have been announced. If we went through all the nominees for every category, we would be here covering that for about 45 minutes. So I'm going to not do that. But we all had Game of the Year. For the Game of the Year category, we all had predictions, and that category was, of course, revealed along with the rest for who the nominees are. So the nominees are Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Resident Evil 4, and The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. Some notable omissions are Sea of Stars, Final Fantasy 16, Diablo 4, and Starfield.
Street Fighter 6.
And Armored Core 6. Street Fighter 6.
Okay.
So let's see. Which one of us had the most amount of guesses right?
You.
You.
I already
Oh,
counted.
me? Oh, shucks. Was it me? Was it 5 of 6? You know me. So, the one I got wrong was Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So, I don't think none of our lists predicted Resident Evil 4 would have a nomination spot.
No, I thought about it, though. I wondered. I was like, oh, yeah, Resident Evil 4. And then I was like, kill me.
I didn't think it was competitive enough. I know it's very highly regarded, but when there are so many new games that have been so well received this year, I just didn't think a remake was going to make it. But
like Gollum,
because Resident Evil 2 was nominated that year, wasn't it?
Was it
when it came out?
Let's see. Resident Evil 2 release date was it 2018? 2019.
19.
Game Awards 2019. DJY.
I feel like it was nominated.
Nominees. It was nominated. Yep.
Yeah. That makes more sense to me than RE4 being here.
You're right, because RE2, the original RE2 was so much more not cryptic, so much more archaic of a game than RE4. RE4 has been one of the most well-aged games of the past 20 years, right? It's been ported to everything. Like literally everything.
And also, like 2019 was a far less competitive year, I think, overall. And couple that with the fact that I think RE2 Remake really paved the way for survival horror to come back in a big way, as you've seen in the following years. Whereas I think RE4 was like, yeah, it's a good game, like a good remake, but I don't know. I haven't played it, so I can't tell you, but like I don't know that it really reinvents the wheel in any meaningful way. I haven't heard discussion in that regard.
Great. RE2 Remake really So I'll say what Resident Evil 7 came out before RE2 remake, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, Resident Evil 7 and RE2 really kickstarted survival horror run for at least Capcom. That's still ongoing now, and of course Alan Wake 2's out, and probably another game I'm forgetting. Survival
Dead Space
horror.
remake.
Dead Space remake. Yep. Callisto. No, let's not go there.
I'm getting started.
I mean, it counts. It's a survival horror that you know.
That's a good
came out
game.
after.
I'm going there.
Thank you, Taylor.
I have. So one thing I wanted to say is last week I realized when we were doing our predictions, I said, and I thought this was funny later. I was like, obviously Super Mario Bros. Wonder is going to get nominated for the Nintendo spot because my brain didn't even recognize Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I remember you saying that when you said the Nintendo spot. I'm like, I think she's mentioning besides Tears of the Kingdom, I hope. But yeah.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is just like it transcends being a Nintendo game. It just is. It just exists. It's so yeah, just correction on my part last week. And then looking, not that I've looked through all the categories, but I do like looking at the best independent games. And I was curious if you guys have played, I know Sam's played Viewfinder, but have you guys played any of the others? So it's Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, and Sea of Stars.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys played any of those? If yes,
Yeah.
which one?
Not one.
I haven't
David
played any of
Diver,
those.
Cocoon a little bit, Sea of Stars a little bit, finished Viewfinder obviously. Haven't played Dredge.
Did you like Dave the Diver?
I do.
Okay.
Shouldn't be in the category, but I like it.
I saw Kind of Funny was arguing about that.
I heard
Well, it's become a whole thing in news coverage of the industry in general. Like it should not be in the indie game list. It's by a small studio, but they have massive funding from their parent company, so it's not independent. Like by definition, it's not.
Well, Hades, you can make an argument. Super Giant is not indie. It's like, well, I guess by definition it is, but in how colloquially a modern indie game is produced with small budget, with maybe max a couple dozen people. That's what I think of when I think of indie game. Where Supergiant has, I think, hundreds of employees.
Yeah.
So, Sea of Stars might be a similar situation to the Hades counterpart. Is it technically indie? I guess, but in terms of, I guess maybe it's just me getting on a high horse about what's really an indie game and being a snob. But I think at its heart, an indie game is an underdog made by a small number of people.
Sure.
That's really what I think when I think an indie game.
I'm gonna add Dave the Diver to my wish list, so that way if it goes on sale,
it'll go on sale. Steam sales a month from now. Yeah, it's going on sale.
I'm adding it on my Switch.
Oh, well, there's also the play. Okay,
it's not on PlayStation.
It's not on PlayStation.
Oh, well, okay.
You put Starfield on your Game of the Year nom list.
Mm-hmm.
She did. I thought that was a good pick at the time. I say that because I thought the gaming industry would like put it there as a representative Xbox's back.
That's exactly
symbol rather than an overt critical reception.
Yeah, that's exactly what my thought was like this is just going to be like a.
I think that might have been the case if it had come out in a much more quiet year. But when there are games that are a large number of games that still didn't make the cut that are just objectively better and more critically well received.
Wow.
I just don't think there was going to be like a sympathy vote for Xbox.
A simp vote, even?
Yeah, that too. That works.
Yeah, I don't know. I swung and I missed, but that's okay.
Who do we think? Well, not who. What do we think will win a Game of the Year? I still think it's Baldur's Gate 3. Well, Tears of the... Dude, I don't know. Alan Wake 2 has a fighting...
My two guesses are Spider-Man 2 and Tears of the Kingdom.
I feel like it's still Baldur's Gate. Like, the people who make these games... So we have the audience voting, but there's like they're weighted differently, right? So gaming insiders vote on their categories, and then the audience has their vote, and the audience is weighted at a certain percentage compared to the critical reception. Am I interpreting how that's counted correctly?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay. I think the Baldur's Gate 3 hits all the right notes for the demographic of people who are in that core gaming writer, editor, media sphere. Like Baldur's Gate 3 is the enthusiast's game. And I think because of that demographic, it will win Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Not because it's objectively better than the others, but the clientele who's doing the voting. This, I think, just speaks to them at a higher level.
And they also say, like, not just for video game awards, but just like awards season in general, whether it's TV or film or whatnot. Once you see a pattern emerging, typically that will run for the majority of the season. And Baldur's Gate 3 basically sweeped golden joysticks, like almost took everything. So I think that is a high indicator that it's likely going to get the bigger awards that it's nominated for, if not most of them. Bree, I would love Spider-Man 2 to win. It doesn't stand a cat's chance in hell of winning.
Really?
And it hurts me to say that, but it doesn't. In the same way that I knew that the first Spider-Man, even though it was nominated for Game of the Year, didn't stand a chance.
That was God of War that year.
Yeah, which that obviously makes sense. God of War is just definitively the better game. But I think that for various other reasons, not necessarily quality, because I do think Spider-Man 2 is phenomenal, like practically perfect, I would say, for what it's going for. But I think when you have Baldur's Gate 3, which is doing unprecedented stuff in the RPG department, when you have Alan Wake 2 that is doing crazy stuff in the narrative and storytelling department, and I don't want Tears of the Kingdom to win. I think it's too iterative on Breath of the Wild, personally.
You're crazy.
Wow. Just because it's too iterative.
Again, my point being, I just think that there are more innovative, exciting, industry-pushing experiences that deserve the nomination more. So I would agree with you, Taylor. I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to get it. Spider-Man 2 has my heart, but I would love, not just for the game, because I think it's excellent, but also for, in the same way that like Joseph Farah's winning with It Takes Two, right? I think Sam Lake getting that win for Alan Wake 2 is not only deserved, but would be like a level up for Remedy that I really want to see them get. Like, I want Remedy to become even more mainstream and well known, because I think what they're doing is incredibly exciting. So it's probably Baldur's Gate 3. I want it to be Alan Wake 2 though.
Yep.
I have no ideas. I think that I would be okay with any of these games winning besides Resident Evil 4. But yeah,
I'd be most disappointed with Mario or Resident Evil 4. I think either of the other four I could understand.
Mario, dude, Mario. I haven't played it. Well, I played the demo. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I played Baldur's Gate 3 this week as part of my recurring, basically D&D campaign with friends. Like, that's like a 2-hour play session on a somewhat weekly basis. Now we're taking a month off because of the holidays, and also one of the people I play with is having a kid. Excuse. But
excuses, Jesus.
But that game is very good. I'm a wizard and
Harry.
Nope, not Harry. I need my wizard Pyrone because I like Pyro. Pyrone. And we were fighting in Baldur's Gate 3. It's so, how do I say this? The amount of detail that's gone into Baldur's Gate 3 seems impossible. the amount of options. Like I just got an ability, for example, from a book of necromancy that lets me talk to the dead after they've died. I can talk to them like an NPC conversation. So that means like for every named NPC and for a lot of NPCs throughout the world, there will be unique conversations for a lot of dead people I try to talk to in the game. And like Larian made all those, implemented all those into the game. And that's just one aspect. And like we were playing at boss recently and it was hard. And my team member said, we're near a ledge to like a bottomless pit. What if I just push them over? He did. They died. We won the fight and that was it. So the game is the developers have thought of everything, and it staggers me how they did it.
Yeah.
Would I say it's the most fun I had with a game this year? No, but it might be the most impressive from they pulled this from just a project that's been completed perspective.
Yeah.
They did it and it works somehow. Anyway, off my Baldur's Gate high horse. I still think so far, well, actually, if I were to read the room right now for myself, I think Final Fantasy 16 right now is my game, but Spider-Man 2 is at least second right now. So
cool.
We'll see if it takes it over.
I have my top 10 is set. Like, it's not changing. I know what it is now.
All right, Gollum.
Number 3. Yeah. Well deserved.
Donnie from PSVG, friend of the show. Or friend of Save the Game, I should say. He got Gollum for like $3 on a key sale, and he was like, sure, why not? And he played a little bit. But it's funny. Anyway, oh my God. Whoever covers this next one, it's a doozy. It's good. I'd say it's good news. But big news. Big news, long news.
Speed read. The Last of Us 2 Remastered is a thing, and it's coming out on January 19th, 2024. The campaign returns alongside technical improvements, new modes, and new behind-the-scenes features that will deepen your understanding of Part 2's creation. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is designed to let you dig deeper into both its development and mechanics. Chief among these is a brand new mode called No Return, which is a roguelike survival mode designed to let players prove their mettle in randomized encounters and experience The Last of Us Part 2's combat in a fresh experience. Each run of this survival mode will offer a new chance to decide what rewards you get after each encounter, how you spec out your character, and more. You can unlock new characters to play as, skins for those characters, and more as you progress in the mode. You can customize your own runs, and you can compete on a global leaderboard with those daily runs. For both new and returning players interested in learning more, Naughty Dog designed Part 2 Remastered to offer a comprehensive dive into the behind-the-scenes of how the studio brought the game to life. A new set of lost levels in Part 2 Remastered allow players a unique chance to check out some playable sequences previously cut from the game. These are not fully finished levels, but rather early development slices that not only let you see some new glimpses of Part 2's world, but also include embedded developer commentary to give each one richer context. In terms of tech, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered will feature enhanced graphics, including a native 4K output in fidelity mode, 1440p upscale to 4K in performance mode, an unlocked frame rate option for TVs that support VRR, increased texture resolution, increased LOD distances, improved shadow quality, animation sampling rate, and more. As you would expect for a PS5 upgrade, Part 2 Remastered also incorporates DualSense wireless controller haptic feedback and adaptive trigger integration. Part 2's accessibility options return for the PS5 experience alongside new additions like the inclusion of descriptive audio and speech to vibrations, which uses the DualSense controller to indicate character speech and cadence. The unlockable speedrun mode, which was included in The Last of Us Part 1, will also be coming to Part 2 Remastered, allowing players to post their best times. Following The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered includes the ability to unlock bonus skins for Ellie, Spoilers, Abby, and their respective weapons. Pre-orders will begin December 5th, both for the Standard Edition as well as The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered WLF Edition, which will be exclusively available direct from PlayStation in select markets. Those include United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Benelux, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Austria. This includes a steelbook display case, 4 enamel pins, a Washington Liberation Front patch, and a total of, this is the coolest part to me, I think, 47 Society of Champions trading cards, including 8 holographics. And good news for people who already own The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4, you'll be able to upgrade to a digital edition of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered for $10 at launch. This comes alongside the ability to import your saves from the original game to the remastered version. And I'm calling it out because it's cool to see coming from Jonathan Dornbush. You know,
I saw
love
that.
him.
The editorial. What's his official title in the article? It is, I think, editorial content manager. Right. He was on PlayStation. The IGN PlayStation
Beyond.
podcast Beyond for a number of years.
Good for him. Yeah, this is something that I think has been talked about and sort of like heavily implied for a long time, but it's now actually a thing, which is, you know, this game came out in 2020.
Yeah. Also worth noting
3 years ago
that this was a leak until they
it was leaked by Insider Gaming with Ryan Henderson. No, Tom Henderson. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At Insider Gaming with a full trailer before, and then Sony announced it like hours later. So that was funny.
Have they announced something without a leak happening in the past 5 years?
Do you think that for Sony to release, they're like, we got to put it out now?
Yeah. I think if it was closer to Game Awards, they might have waited.
Yeah.
Like if it had like maybe a week before Game Awards, they could have just held out. But because if it was such a known quantity, it would be basically the same as Part 1, when it's like, we know this is a thing. And then they had the debut at Game Awards? No. Where was it? Might have been
something in the summer.
Yeah, Gamescom, one that opening night live.
Summer Games Fest?
Maybe.
One of those things. And it was like the least exciting announcement because everybody already knew what it was, and it was like the big closer.
Okay, but also to be fair, it wouldn't have been exciting even if we didn't know.
I don't know about
that. I don't think it would be exciting because.
Bree, have you played TLOU Part 2? I forgot.
No.
Hey, I have played. That's not what he asked. The question he asked was, have you played it? And the answer is, I have played it.
But you beat TLOU 1, right?
I've beat the first game.
Okay.
Yes.
Dude, the gameplay in put Part 2's gameplay in Last of Us 1 and you have a perfect video game. No questions asked. No, I don't know to the extent in which they did that in the Part 1 remake, but yeah.
I mean, they didn't really. You know, there's no prone or anything. You can't.
Okay, yeah.
Dodge. I remember they did add a dodge. I can't remember.
The Last of Us 2's combat and gameplay systems are some of the best in third-person action games. Third-person shooters, period.
Yeah.
It's just that good. Now, the narrative is where people get all caught up. But the gameplay, I think, is unarguable.
I'm going to have to finish Part 2 at some point.
Maybe you should read. How many hours in were you? Because it might be worth restarting. How heavy narrative?
I was really, really far in the game. That was like I was like at least 70% of the way done with the game.
Maybe.
But I tried looking through. Because it's like broken into, I think, chapters is what they call the sections. And so I was trying to like read through, and I was like, "Damn, I don't remember any of this." So, long story short, I may have to just restart it, but I don't want to play the opening sequence of the game, which is why I haven't played it again yet.
Well, if you've made it past a certain section in the game, you can specifically choose what chapter of the game you want to jump to, then start a save file from there. So if you just look up, Google or an IGN guide that like some ones that Sam work on, or some game guide as to what mission the scene you're talking about occurs, just make sure you select the chapter right after, and then start from
That's a
there.
good call. Maybe I'll do that then, because I haven't really been playing games, so I need something to play. And Dark Souls has been calling my name, so I'm trying to resist.
I think that option to choose what chapter you play that you've already completed is activated once you complete a level. I'm saying that because maybe it's available only once you complete the game, but I think it's available after you've completed what the game considers a certain sequence. Sam, do you remember on that?
Haven't got a clue.
Let's see.
I mean, worst case scenario, I could probably like skip the cutscene.
Yeah, you could do that.
But
actually.
I mean, like,
it's unlocked straight away.
Very, very vague spoilers, but like skipping that one cutscene isn't really going to save you.
It saves me some emotional pain.
Yeah, Bree, I just looked it up. You can do chapter select after you've completed any chapter of the game.
Okay.
So it's available before you completed a full playthrough. So as long as your save data exists, you can just run right past it.
Okay.
You can just wait till this remaster comes out.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
going
oh,
with
hey,
all the new bells and whistles.
this is actually what I was waiting for.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
I mean, I said in the Discord when this was leaked and then confirmed, like, it's the most pointless remaster I think I've ever seen. But
yeah,
to
but at
be
least
fair,
it's like $10.
Well, I mean, that's the same as any of the director's cuts they've done thus far. But to their credit, even within that like director's cut upgrade, which you might as well call this if you already own the game, this includes way more new stuff than any of the others previously have. Because the others have basically just been, for the most part, like up-resing, DualSense integration, like maybe a couple of minor things. Like I know the Death Stranding thing had like a couple of new equipment pieces that you could use, but like an entire new game mode, cut content, dev commentary with all of the visual and tech upgrades. I think that more than justifies the price, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Naughty Dog. Let's get something new out of you. Maybe now that this is leaked ahead of time, maybe Naughty Dog, what you can do is at the Game Awards, where this likely would have been unveiled and been a decent pop,
show the next thing.
Show the new thing instead.
It's not happening. No way.
You never know. Maybe Neil Druckmann is like, hey, all of our stuff seems to leak. So if we
let's
can
release the trailer before it's ready.
If we can throw together a teaser trailer, even just a logo, before anything leaks about our new project, let's just give Jeff a logo for this new thing instead.
You had tinfoil hats on for a second. How did they keep leaking? Please,
they have employees who.
I know, but is it like one employee that keeps doing it, or do you think
maybe
it's multiple?
Well, no, because I think the part one person, whoever it was, I think they were discovered and gotten rid of. That sounds way more ominous than I meant it to be. So I don't really
got rid of them.
I don't really know why it's still happening.
But it's not just that one person then, right? Because like if
well, I mean, it can't be now,
right? So
I don't know, because like I would have said it's because Naughty Dog is like such high renown in the industry, and therefore there's like more fervor for any of the stuff that they're working on. But I would say that there are, as much as I still love Naughty Dog, there are arguably more valuable and exciting studios right now.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
So,
especially to get like information from.
Yeah, like what is Cory Barlog's new game.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that's way more of a hot ticket right now than whatever Naughty Dog is doing next. Even though they're still like the prestige studio because they don't put out bad stuff. I think there's more.
There are so many things that you could like if you really are just like an outsider that's just hacking. Like, there's so many other things that you could like that would
What's
be way more
Insomniac's
exciting.
multiplayer game? You know, that sort of
Spider-Verse.
stuff.
What?
You might be right. You know,
Insomniac's making
Yeah.
Spider-Verse, multiple Spider-Man. It's canon. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
No.
Fantastic Four are not that cool, right?
But Insomniac could make them cool.
Well, this
I don't know if
relates
I
to a
believe
topic
that.
we have later in the show.
All right. Fine. Poor Naughty Dog. That's all I have to say. They don't deserve to have everything leaked. I get a leak every once in a while, but
I hope they deserve it.
everything? I don't know. Okay. Next one.
Sure.
Okay, the PlayStation Plus catalog brings Dragon's Dogma, Teardown, and more in its mid-November editions. Coming to PS Plus Extra and Premium. That's going to be Teardown for PS5, Dragon's Dogma, Dark Arisen. For PS4, Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme versus Maxi Boost.
Name's not long enough.
PS4.
It's a Gundam
That's
tag
such an
team game,
anime
I
thing.
think.
Dead Island Riptide Definitive Edition for PS4, Superliminal for PS4 and PS5, Ayuden, I don't know how to say that, sorry, Chronicle
Ayuden, yeah.
Rising, PS4 and PS5, Nobunaga's Ambition, Taishi, PS4. Alternate Jake Hunter, is that person that like hunts Jakes? Like
I don't know.
Daedalus, the Awakening of Golden Jazz. What? Sorry.
Only ultimate versions of Jake.
Would Jake the dog count as an ultimate version?
Yep.
I think so. Okay. River City Melee Mock. PS4. Coming to PS Plus Premium. Grandia for PS4 and PS5. Jet Moto for PS4 and PS5. Up for PS4 and PS5. Klonoa Fantasy. Reverie series, PS4 and PS5, and then Parappa Rappa, PS2, or PS4, excuse me, Parappa Rappa 2.
Sure is a month.
It is a month. That is true.
Pretty okay.
The month is November.
Pretty okay selection.
I just want the new Dragon's Dogma. Stop trying to tantalize me.
Have you played the old Dragon's Dogma?
No, I don't want to. I want the new one.
See, I'm the opposite. When a new game's coming out, a franchise that I'm interested in, I want to play the old one first to check it out. That's why I want to go back and play Alan Wake Remastered, and then all of Control and its DLC, and then Alan Wake 2.
I think if there's a narrative reason to do so, then I agree. But for Dragon's Dogma, from what I understand, it's going to be more like Monster Hunter, where it's like an iteration of the game. Like it's like a new story, new place, new monsters, and everything.
Mm.
It's like you can jump into Monster Hunter world without playing any of the other Monster Hunters, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's what I understand. But I'll probably at least like add it to my catalog or my library and then never play it. How many games are you going to be platinuming here, Sam?
I've got my eye on Up. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I saw that. I was like, what?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to trying Teardown. It's a game I've had my eye on.
Oh, yeah, that's a Minecraft car game. I actually do want to try that.
It's not a Minecraft car game.
Yeah, it is.
It's a voxel destruction game. It's like it's a heist simulator, basically.
Is it single player?
Yeah.
I remember seeing it.
But it's just like fully destructible environments. It does have cars in it, but it's not a car game.
That's how I remembered it. Minecraft car game.
Yeah. So I'm going to check that out. Day one release, which is cool.
Are these out already?
Yes. Yeah, they are. November 15th, I believe they came out.
Superliminal, very good puzzle game. If you like, what's a comparable?
What's that game that Taylor recommended randomly? Do that one.
What game?
it's a bit like if Stanley Parable was mixed with
He's going to play that game.
something like Antechamber
Hmm.
Okay.
and
Don't
weirdly
trust
Control, I'm going to say.
Okay.
Like, but don't only take that in terms of like aesthetic and like vibe.
Okay.
It's quite short. You can finish it in like 2 hours, but it's very good mechanic, like a very unique thing. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but the mechanic that you actually use to solve the puzzles in Superliminal is very good. Love to see Klonoa. Klonoa is a classic franchise. Not that I'm probably going to play them, but cool that they're there.
What?
I do just want to point out, just in case for people that are Patreon watching this, these are available from November 21st. For everybody else, by the time you're listening to this, it will be out. But you guys lied to my face.
Well, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
technically, like I already know that I have Teardown installed on my console.
Oh,
It does have that one. It does have that one out, but the other ones, like the ones that I was looking at, like Dragon's Dogma and Superliminal, those ones aren't, like I couldn't add those yet.
so they will all be out by November 21st.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Toph? Hi. Okay.
That's interesting, actually. The catalog
doing?
update comes that late in the month.
Yeah.
Because typically it's like at least the first half of the month.
It does feel like it's a little bit late.
So does that then mean that the editions every month in the catalog are going to be staggered from this point forward? Like that?
Yeah, so that way they're like getting out of one of the months. Just kidding.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that's weird.
So I'm looking through the catalog. Have you guys heard of this game called Eldest Souls? Just kidding.
Bree, you and your Souls likes, huh?
I know. Listen, I'm addicted and I love it, and I don't want to change for anything.
Oh yeah, Dark Souls Remastered and Dark Souls 3 are two other games I need to put on my chopping block to get to one day. But after Spider-Man 2, it's Alan Wake Remastered, full steam ahead, baby.
Yes.
Then Control.
I'm very excited to hear your thoughts on Control, especially.
Oh, I'm excited.
You know, would it surprise you that I never beat Control?
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me you don't beat games.
Yeah. You know what's even worse?
Go on.
I may or may not have deleted my save so that I could start the game over.
Do you have it? Why not just have it on a cloud? What? Wait, is there no save slots in Control?
There was no save slot for what I was playing. I can't remember what platform I was playing on. I have it on 2 platforms now, but there was not an additional save slot.
And you
and I wanted to restart it, and then I restarted it, and I regretted it.
Are you sure there's no way of manual saving and loading a save from?
It's too late. It's dead.
I really feel like that function must exist.
Anyways, no, I deleted this like years ago. Like, I mean, probably like
you probably played it on PC
2 years
then.
ago. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, that makes it worse because you could have backed it up on your computer.
Listen, sometimes I make bad decisions.
All right.
And nobody talked me out of it. Not that I had anybody to talk me out of it, but nobody talked me out of it.
Damn.
That's my story with Control. So, yeah.
I'm glad you gave it the good old college try.
I'll play it again at some point.
Nice. All right. Well, I wanted to try something different for the show this week. Maybe this becomes a recurring thing, depending on how big some news weeks are or not. Top what? And I have a topic I want to run by you guys and discuss.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it a little bit pre-show, but I think it's topical and it's an interesting conversation. So I want to talk about the concept of Marvelization. So this is not a word that you can find in the dictionary. You know, this is a currently made up word that describes the.
I think it's an Urban Dictionary.
I think it's an Urban Dictionary, that describes the phenomenon of all of the interconnected Marvel films that we've had over the past 15 years, and especially over the past few years since Avengers Endgame. So a YouTuber by the name of Like Stories of Old posted a video called The Marvelization of Cinema, in which he echoes concerns for film's future, like Martin Scorsese highlighted recently, calling Marvel films, quote, amusement parks rather than film. The ill effects of Marvelization in this YouTuber's eyes are arguably seen in Phase 4 and Phase 5 of the Marvel era, which ranges from 2021 to now November 2023. Marvelization, by their definition, involves the relatedness of different movies to each other via a few major characteristics. One is what they describe as hollow franchise building, meaningless, and another is meaningless meta references and corporate passion or otherwise significant corporate influence on the creation of film projects. Like I said, Scorsese's ad hoc definition of Marvelization is amusement parks, which is obviously more general and colloquial. So we've obviously seen the rise of Sony's own Marvel's franchise with Insomniac Spider-Man titles, and have recent confirmation that Insomniac Spider-Man and Wolverine are in the same universe. We also have confirmation from Remedy that Alan Wake and Control are in the same universe. We have 16 Horizon Forbidden West, not Forza Horizon Universe games that Guerrilla is working on. And we keep hearing that games are getting too expensive and taking too long to make. And they're getting too big budget. Or not, I shouldn't say too big budget. The budgets are increasing significantly, as are development times. And on its face, I think the argument can be made, me, Taylor, I'm not reading an article. All of this prompt is stuff I made. On its face, I think the argument can be made that video games are showing, I wrote headed towards Marvelization. Maybe I'll say showing indicators of being Marvelized. So I asked my co-hosts, including myself, is Marvelization bad? Is gaming, or at least the PlayStation space, going that direction? If gaming or PlayStation is or isn't, how does that make you feel? Or do you just reject the notion of Marvelization? Maybe just reject the pretext in which I'm asking the question.
Good question. Well done, Taylor.
Thanks.
Off the bat, I'll just make one slight amendment here. Not that it really changes the overall scope of the conversation. There are supposedly 16 Horizon things in the works. Those are not all games. It's just projects that Guerrilla is involved in. So that includes the Netflix show. Mm-hmm. I think there's like talk of maybe like a mini anime adaptation of something. That would also include multimedia stuff like a comic book or whatever. But still, the point stands, we're getting more Horizon and they are fleshing out that universe more and more. So your point still stands. I was just sort of setting the stage. I'm going to contextualize this, that this is obviously coming from someone who is pretty evidently a shill for Marvel.
I wasn't going to say it.
Yeah.
I completely understand the implications and the idea behind the argument. I just don't know that there's that much to be concerned with. As of right now, obviously, I can't speak to the future and how homogenous or whatnot it might become. But I think that if we're talking specifically about games here, I don't know that there is too much of an issue, because I think that there is a glass ceiling that can't be broken in terms of this stuff. Like, I don't know that anything in the gaming space, PlayStation or not, is going to get to the level of, I'm using this term in a very heartfelt sense, but the bloat of something like an MCU, where there is just so much stuff and everything is connected, and you need to know all of this stuff from each of these one things to understand what's going on in the most recent thing. I don't know that we're ever going to get to that point, because I think it's somewhat impossible with games. Even with Insomniac building out a universe with Spider-Man and Wolverine, I don't anticipate that is going to become, in 10 years' time, there is 3 X-Men games and 4 Daredevil games and 2 Fantastic Four games, and all of them are bleeding into one another. There might be slight more expansion than we currently have, but I don't anticipate that it's going to be. If you haven't played Daredevil 3 from Insomniac, you aren't going to understand what's happening in Spider-Man 4. Like, I don't think there'll be winks and nods, and obviously all being set in the same universe allows for some fun stuff. But I don't think that there's too much weight to that. In the same vein of like me just playing through Alan Wake 2, like Remedy have been very transparent for years at this point that pretty much all of their games are connected within the same universe. That is evident if you've played a number of their, especially more recent games. And I think that there is, even within that, if it does become everything's interconnected, I think it's at the discretion of the developer to be very level-headed about exactly how far that interconnectivity goes, to make sure that their games still remain as mainstream as possible. Because it's a product that you have to sell that is a little bit harder to recoup costs on than something like a film that can eventually go to a streaming service that you can then reap in profits from subscribers. Obviously, the game could go to PlayStation Plus or whatever years down the line, and that is still a way of recouping costs, but I think it's a little bit different. I don't subscribe to what Martin Scorsese said about amusement parks. I get it, and like in a very basic sense, he is correct. But I am still heartfelt, dedicated to the idea that Marvel is more than just flashing lights and spectacle. I think there is very strong character work, not necessarily across the board, but I think that it has far more merits than a lot of people are willing to give it. And like sequelization and interconnectivity, I think, is an excellent way of maintaining a fan base, particularly because it has, by the MCU and various other means, become far more ingrained in fan culture as the years have gone on over the past couple of decades at this point. One thing I will say, and it's weird that this seems to be, and you haven't raised it, but in terms of like this general discussion about, PlayStation doing tons of sequels and stuff and everything being connected, and PlayStation isn't the only one doing this. Mm-hmm. Like, sequels in general are inherently franchise and interconnected, right? For the most part, unless it's a definitive break or a reboot to a franchise or whatever. Like Halo, Gears, even new stuff like Hellblade. It's like the sequels continue stories, and we've had sequels forever.
Right. Well, this is going beyond the realm of just sequels, right? In terms of
sure.
How do you create the bridge from Alan Wake to Control, or from Wolverine to Spider-Man?
Sure. But then I think that it becomes a bit ambiguous in terms of what the definition of a sequel is, when you are inherently setting yourself up within a given lane. Specifically, we're talking about Remedy. Like, they are saying, regardless of what the title of the game is, they are connected. So I think that there's a different expectation there. I don't expect, and I know this is a bit facetious, but like a new IP for an Insomniac, I'm not anticipating that is connecting into Spider-Man and Wolverine, unless it's another Marvel game. You get my point. But like, in a number of ways, you could say that Alan Wake 2 is a sequel to Control. Like, it's not called Control 2.
Oh,
but
really?
In the same way that it's a sequel to Alan Wake,
connected.
I still think it's a sequel to Control, in the same way that I think Control 2 will be a sequel to not only Control, but also Alan Wake 2. So I think, it's very much rests at the feet of the developer at the end of the day. in terms of how you handle it. I don't even like the verbiage of Marvelization. I think it's just like the in thing at the moment that is most famous for having interconnectivity and stuff. So it's sort of what people latch onto. But it's not like all of gaming is heading in this direction, you know. Even within PlayStation, if we're talking specifically about that, like a lot of PlayStation stuff is still very much standalone in its own lane. It's not like Horizon have said that that Killzone and Horizon are in the same universe.
They could be.
Or technically anything could be, you know.
Whoever the writers decide. Yeah.
So I think there are legitimate concerns that could become more prevalent as years go on. But where we are right now, I think the products that we're getting are of, for the most part, such a high quality, regardless of these supposed restraints and things that are it's tying into this game and this project and setting stuff up for the future and yada yada yada. Despite all of those potential hurdles, that the products that we're getting as consumers are still, for the most part, great. So I don't know. I don't think there's too much of an issue personally.
Taylor, did you want to go next?
Okay. Do I think... is Marvelization bad? Well, as someone who's followed Marvel closely from Iron Man to... Well, I don't want to say closely. I followed Marvel... I saw almost every MCU film as they came out, from Iron Man, I guess Incredible Hulk was officially the first MCU film, right? And then Iron Man 1, or was it Iron Man 1 then the Hulk?
Yeah, that way around. Iron Man then.
Okay, since Iron Man 1 through Endgame. And after Endgame, I just fell off of Marvel. I didn't follow all the different shows that came out. You know, when the commitment turns from a movie into seasons of a show, and then I have WandaVision to watch, and then all these new movies quickly, like Shang-Chi came out, Eternals, No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Loki, Moon Knight. It just felt like overload to me. I felt a similar way about Star Wars. All I did was I kept up with Mandalorian. Well, and then even then now I'm one season behind. So it just felt like it was harder for me to keep up with what was going on because there were just so many projects. And then of course we have the new Ant-Mans that came out, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, Thor, and it's Love and Thunder. And it's like, I wouldn't be, and I felt a bit, I don't know if jaded's the word. I felt like I was missing out a bit if I saw one project but not another, because this product informs that product narratively, which informs, you know, XYZ, ABC down the line. So I felt like it was much harder for me to watch them in isolation. So I just didn't really do it in terms of keeping up narratively. Like, I didn't want to just watch a film and then have to like go down 30 minutes of, I didn't understand this because these events happened from this show that was related to the other movie, where from a consumer's perspective, it was just too much content for me for how much time I wanted to spend on keeping up with it. It didn't feel as digestible. And that's a shame because I really enjoy superhero media. And it's not like I'm saying I'll never watch Marvel again, or if they lost me, because I loved No Way Home, pulled a ton of my nostalgia strings. And selfishly, I just loved it because I grew up with Raimi's trilogy and it was all implemented in Tom Holland's No Way Home, and I thought it was very well done. And that was a great time I had with it. But the others I just haven't really experienced. So I guess from one perspective, I'm ill-informed because I haven't seen so much of the recent Marvel cinema and shows. But that's also an artifact of the bloat you're talking about. There's just so many. For how much time I like to spend on keeping up with TV shows and iterative films, it felt like the bucket spilled over for me. So when that comes to video games, I don't think it's there yet. And I don't think it will get there in most instances by virtue of how long it takes to make a AAA video game. That's a bottleneck inherent to AAA game development. That I can, and in gaming for me, it's something almost like it flips on its head, where the interconnectedness gets cool to me because it's something that I can keep up with as a consumer. I think I'll be able to keep up with whatever happens with Alan Wake and Control in stride with each other. We're on here at a minimum 3 years, more like 4 to 6 years at this point in AAA game development. Sequels coming out, or I'll call them interconnected, Marvelized quote unquote titles coming out to one another. That, at least from what I play, mainly single player adventures, I'll be able to keep up with the pace, and I'm interested to see where the narratives intertwine and take each other, because on its face, certain collaborations, at least in video games, between superheroes or superhero-esque characters, people who have powers, who deal with the supernatural, seeing them come together across different franchises almost feels like a nice nostalgia, awesome feeling you get when you see these, the new Smash Brothers come out with all these different crossovers. So like in gaming, I think we have a legacy of crossovers from maybe a very superficial sense, in Smash Brothers, in Subspace Emissary, there was some interconnectedness with the narrative, but these characters are together. But right now in games, there's a chance to really bring the narratives onto each other. So I think when it comes to like I keep saying, the Control Alan Wake perspective, or maybe the Spider-Man Wolverine perspective, these hints, maybe some appearances, some cameos, some more implicit connections, rather than, we're getting the Avengers together, I think can shape up to be really interesting. Where I think it might fall on its face, what I'm more concerned about which is I think adjacent to the Marvelization conversation when it comes to the corporate push perspective, is the push for games as a service, all these new projects coming on for Horizon. That indicates to me more symptoms of the Marvel problem than it would with something like Control Alan Wake or Spider-Man Wolverine. But I'm also, well, of course, my opinion is biased from my own perspective, but I also haven't played the Horizon games. So I'm already lost that part of the battle where I'm not invested in the characters yet. And I already have what it feels like that much hill to gain before I'm caught up with what extra projects Guerrilla might do. So I guess to put a bow in it, in the world of gaming, I think Marvelization is real. I think it is real, and it is a concern of mine. So let me just say for a second, another side tangent. In movies, as long as A24 exists or the art house movie scene exists, I'll be able to find movies that I find very meaningful, regardless of if that's in the big box office or not, if that's a new Scorsese film or not. When it comes to games, I think the mechanisms of current game development, the timetables they occur on, prevents this from proliferating into being a real problem like we see it with Disney and Marvel. I do have concerns with how Sony is treating Horizon. And I forgot to mention, the Last of Us TV show. That's another example where they're going multimedia, but it's not quite Marvelized. It doesn't have that bloat. Same thing with Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Maybe I'll say I haven't played Cyberpunk, but it's the partner anime that's gone along with it in the same universe, but not necessarily one is a pretext for another. Well, in Last of Us Part 2, it is. And Last of Us Part 2 maybe isn't a great example because it's describing the events of the game. But in terms of multimedia expansion, I think they're really in check, and I think it's a positive right now. But I do have concerns. So I don't know how eloquently I put that together. Maybe it could have been more efficient, but Yeah, it's many people.
You've just raised a point. I'm sorry, Bree. Is it all right if I just make a quick
Of course.
counterpoint?
Of course.
Okay. I don't want to step on your toes at all.
You're not at all.
But you saying about, all the Horizon stuff, I think the argument might actually switch over instead of like Marvelization and interconnectivity, it more being there's too much of a given thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to the nature of the self. Like everyone's saying, oh, there's so many, so much Spider-Man stuff from Insomniac, and Naughty Dog won't let Last of Us die. It's like, well, Last of Us has only had 2 games, and Spider-Man's technically had 3, but really 2.5.
Yeah.
So that's less than most other franchises have had. But I think that it's because, as you say about the game development cycle, these things take so long to come out. We live with the IP as they currently exist for so long that it feels like we've been around it for much longer than we really have in terms of actual exposure playing the games.
Okay.
And there's not like a one-to-one of a Marvel MCU thing for games, because the only way that is possible is if a PlayStation said every single PlayStation studio, all of the IP going forward is going to be interconnected, regardless of what it is, which obviously isn't going to happen. Like, it's infeasible.
Right.
But also just wouldn't make any sense. I think like nobody has a complaint about Spider-Man and Wolverine being interconnected. Nobody has an issue with Last of Us being turned into a TV show because the products are good. And that's not me saying that Horizon is bad. I just don't think that Horizon has clicked with the audience in the same way that a Last of Us or a Spider-Man has. So I think there's a bit less tolerance when they say that they are committing that heavily ahead of time, even after just 2 games, to say we've got this many projects in the works, regardless of what those projects are, however small or big they might be. It's a bit like that seems like an overstep, and therefore we as consumers might be less willing to dive into that because we feel we have that much more commitment that we have to make long term. Because your point about dropping off after Endgame, I think is really interesting, because actually after Endgame, like Phase 4 has been far more standalone, disconnected than you might think.
Oh, okay.
Like almost all of the shows, of course, they have references and a few characters show up here and there, but really, compared to what Phase 3 was, where everything led to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, that's basically completely absent from Phase 4. But I think it's going back to my initial point, the amount of the stuff. Because when you dropped off is really when the proliferation of the Disney Plus shows started.
Yeah.
And it felt like you were overwhelmed by the amount of content as opposed to the actual quality and substance of the product.
Right. Because I can't say on the quality because I haven't consumed
exactly.
it. But
it's the perception of that commitment time wise and just the sheer amount of stuff, even if it's a invalid concern because it is disconnected like Phase 4 has been, the outside perception is the thing that a lot of consumers are going to weigh their decision on, which I think is very interesting.
Right. Yeah. And for me, at least, Marvel was really impactful growing up personally. I saw Iron Man 2 when I was 10. Okay. And Endgame I saw at the end of my freshman year of college. I think it came out in the spring of 2019. So like that bookended my childhood. So I have major nostalgia and positive experiences with it. Was so impactful with me growing up as that the action figure sign of the action figure quote unquote esque side of me growing up was always following the Marvel films as a kid. And I can't really overstate that. So I'm not, so I think I should have said that, in that I came from it when the Marvel shows expanded. I had a ton of personal investment before then. It wasn't brand new. And I enjoyed what I had. And now RDJ's returning. There's a video I saw recently on YouTube where there's a guy on YouTube named Man Carrying Thing, and he posts these short skits, and one of it was like 40 seconds. Well, the one yesterday was it's like Marvel I think the title of it was Marvel Raiders figuring out what to do, and it was we can't press the button. We can't press the button. No, don't do it. Don't press the button. And it kept flashing all the Marvel films that have had box office performances, not any expectations, like Ant-Man and Multiverse of Madness and other stuff. And then it's like, we got to press it. And the button was give our DJ $1 trillion to come back. Robert Downey Jr., for listeners who don't know, Iron Man in some form, who was the face of the MCU for over a decade. And arguably in the legacy of the MCU probably will be the face of it.
Yeah,
definitely.
And we've, like I've said it before, just as a final point, I'm sorry, Bree, but I think it's pertinent. PlayStation, I would argue, is technically the best of the big three at letting IP die. There is so many IP over the years from their developers that they have just never gone back to, even though there's been fan fervor for it. Resistance, Sly Cooper, Killzone. Infamous, etc.
Killzone's just on the back burner right now. We don't know what's happening with it.
Exactly. Well, so, and not that I'm talking about quality at all, but Halo is still going, Gears is still going, Forza is still going, obviously Gran Turismo is still going for PlayStation.
Mario and Zelda
Mario is still happening. Zelda is still happening.
Well, Nintendo's also kind of on Jupiter when it comes to a lot of the gaming conversation.
Sure. But point being is that I think PlayStation Studios is really quite a small knit group of developers. And because they are big AAA blockbusters, we see them less often. And therefore we have to sit with a current IP technically probably for longer than you might do with an Xbox. And also Xbox just has more money to float new ideas from developers, which is something you can't really ignore. They're more prone to take risks because they have the financial justification to do it. But yeah, like we've lived with Last of Us for 10 years now. But I don't expect that to be an evergreen thing in the same way that, well, I mean, technically people are thinking, oh, well, Last of Us, they're going to milk it and bleed it into the ground. You asked me 10, 13 years ago, I probably would have said the same thing about Infamous.
I think the only evergreen PlayStation IP at this point are Ratchet and Clank and God of War.
Yeah, and I again, not that any of us really care about it, but I expect Gran Turismo will stay around as well.
Gran Turismo, sorry. Yes.
But outside of that, I fully expect that if Last of Us Part 3 does come, that is going to be the last game in the franchise. I'm willing to bet all of my money on it. Same for like Spider-Man 3. I genuinely don't think we're probably going to get a Spider-Man game after that. At least not for a long time. Maybe I'm wrong, but...
Get Wolverine 2 instead. I'll take it.
I mean, that's of course going to come, but
I'm so excited for Wolverine.
Tomato. Sorry, Bree. Please.
Old Man Logan game to close out the Wolverine trilogy. Anyway,
you guys aren't bucking me. It's okay.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Alrighty. So I just for the purpose of like my conversation, I do kind of want to separate it at least a little bit because I think that like having a sequel to a game like Last of Us 1 to 2 is different from having something like Alan Wake and Control.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that like those are like kind of like Sam was saying, like kind of sequels to each other, but they're not truly sequels, right? It's not like 1, 2, 3.
One is not an explicit succession of another.
And I think that those, like, in my head at least, those are like two different categories of things. I think that sequels, like, just leave them however long the developers want to tell the story, as long as it's not just like, hey, we're trying to make money and the story's garbage. Like then yes, I'll be bugged. But beyond that, like, let the developers tell the story, whatever they want, like whatever's going to make them happy and like make them feel fulfilled, like let them tell their stories kind of thing. So just pushing that over kind of to the side, talking about like having a Marvelization where it's like an interconnected thing. I think that honestly, video games could stand to do that way, 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 way more. I'm coming from a perspective, I guess, of like being somebody that reads books where for a huge example of this is Brandon Sanderson, where his worlds are all called, it's like all an interconnected universe where things are not directly related, but if you read the series in a certain order, you kind of start to notice like, oh, hey, there's like these things that kind of connect, and it rewards you for working at the story, right? And I think that video games could stand to do that as well, where it's like you don't have to necessarily do these in a certain order, but if you do play these games in order and you are working at the story and you're actively paying attention and doing all this work, then you're rewarded for your efforts, kind
You
of
could make
thing.
that argument for like Dark Souls.
Exactly. I think Dark Souls, especially Dark Souls 1 to 3, is a
Yeah.
great example where like this, I guess spoilers for these games, but one of the people you meet in Dark Souls 3, like the blacksmith, is like dead in the third one, and you like stumble upon like his corpse, right? So like,
Andre, right?
yep. And so like that's like a direct one that like it doesn't super matter for the story of the game, but it's something that's like, oh, I worked with this guy a lot. I really liked this dude. He was really nice. Like,
And Dark Souls is also an interesting example because I think the story is really, can make the argument Dark Souls, the story is those implicit interactions. It's the item descriptions.
Yes.
It's implicit.
Yes. The story of Dark Souls is you very much have to work to get the story for Dark Souls and understand what's going on, because you have to read item descriptions, you have to read like weapon descriptions, you have to like find NPCs out in the world that if you don't find them before a certain time, they're dead or they're gone or stuff like that. So like I think that Dark Souls is a great example. Like I said, Alan Wake and Control is a great example. And I really do think that video games could really stand to have an investment like this, where it's like, hey, we want to create this interconnected world that like you don't necessarily have to play them in any order, but if you work at it, it's worth the time. But because like you guys were saying, video games take so long to make, that's such an investment that it's really hard to sell, right? Like it's hard to get something like the fact that we're getting the treat of like Alan Wake 2 and Control, like that's like a very unusual situation. And you know, seems to be like such a really cool experience. Not that I've experienced it personally, but it looks like it would be really amazing to kind of have that happen. So anyways, point being, I think that it's not enough and I want more specifically of that. So
you make a really good point. Like the fact, I mean, I said it, but you kind of actually contextualized it a different way of how there isn't really a one-to-one MCU to games. The fact is that, and I agree with you, I want more of it as well, generally speaking, because the difference is that with the MCU as a thing, yes, you have lots of different creative voices coming in, but ultimately they are all working towards this one story, one creative overview. Mm-hmm. Whereas you have PlayStation, but then or any, company, Nintendo, Xbox, whatever, but each developer underneath that has their own stories, their own franchises that can still have all the interconnectivity, but are completely isolated stories. And you as a consumer aren't obligated, because you are fully invested in this one, to go over to that one and stick around. So I think there's far less feeling of being overwhelmed, particularly as we are in the early stages of this kind of seeping into games a little bit more. Regardless of what game or IP or franchise you want to jump into, there really isn't that much work comparatively to something like the MCU that you have to do to be up to speed.
Yeah.
So I think that you can pick your battles. If you want to watch the latest Marvel film and know exactly what's going on, you have a lot of homework to do. But if you want to play Horizon Forbidden North, which is let's say the third game, whatever they decide to call it, and you also want to play Marvel's Wolverine, you don't have to do all of them here to get all of this here.
Yeah.
That you can just pick which ones you're most interested in and just follow that line. Whereas you can't really do that in the Marvel. Even if you say you only wanted to watch the Guardians films in Marvel, as you go further on, you actually do need to branch out to the other stuff where they make other appearances, other characters are introduced that then come into the third Guardians film, that kind of stuff. Whereas there isn't that comparison in games. And I don't think there can be, again, across developers. I just don't think we're going to get to that point.
I think there's one technicality that should be mentioned. games do take much longer time to complete than a movie or show does in terms of dedicated user hours
as well as making.
on average, right? Yeah, but I'm just talking in terms of how you would catch up. So
Sure.
while there's but I still think it levels out, even though it takes much longer to beat a game. The infrequency of interconnected games coming out is still way less than, let's say, you game for an hour a week, the amount of time it would take you to beat that game. If you played 1 hour a week of Horizon Zero Dawn, let's say, you would be done the game in less than a year, and no sequels out in less than a year.
Yeah.
So you could still, I think the argument is still to be made that it's much easier to pace from a consumer perspective, even though games take much longer to complete individually than it would a movie, one episode of a TV show or one film.
I do also want to point out, just because I think it's worth pointing out, that we're talking specifically about mainstream, because I feel like people that play, we're like, if you're talking about like JRPGs, I imagine that there is some sort of like interconnected
well, SMT
stuff
and Persona,
going on.
that's an interesting example where Persona was a spinoff of SMT, and then it became its juggernaut of a franchise, but they're related. They're actually very closely related, not so much narratively as they are
and I mean,
gameplay wise. Like your Persona creatures show up in SMT 5.
An example might be, and I know how funny Kingdom Hearts is related to The World Ends With You, is also related to like Final Fantasy. There's stuff like that happens as well. So I want to be very clear that we're talking about mainstream stuff. I'm not saying that this stuff doesn't exist in the video game universe.
Kingdom Hearts is a really good example.
I'm just saying that it's like there. I want a really, like, how cool would it be if there was confirmation that like Ghost of Tsushima, like somehow, I don't, this is a terrible example, I'm just giving an example. Ghost of Tsushima was actually in the past, like, in like the existing Japan of like Horizon's world, and you like somehow get confirmation of that. And it's, but also like some of the humans left Earth, and that's how like a space game happened, and like I don't know, like stuff like that would be really interesting. And those are terrible examples because I don't think that those worlds would go well together, but like that I want something more where we get to like work at it. And like, yeah, it takes a long time to build, but like, can you imagine, like, let's say 10 years from now we've had 3 games come out that are not connected in any ways, like tangibly to the Control universe, but like you get all of these references to Control in like small ways. I think that would be really cool. Anyways.
And I still think like siloed within a specific developer across franchises, again, within that developer is again a different thing. Because like, would you consider, I mean, I guess mild spoiler, very, very, very mild spoilers for Uncharted 3. But like Uncharted 3, at the beginning of the game, there's a bar, and on a newspaper sitting on the bar, there is a reference to The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So technically, maybe implying that they're in the same universe. Obviously, it's also just a wink and a nod to the next game coming from Naughty Dog, but still,
yes.
Like I think that like whether it's another stupid example, but you saying Ghost of Tsushima, what if that was just the past history, real world history that occurred in the Infamous universe? Both from Sucker Punch, so it's completely siloed within that developer. There's not having to be working with other studios. I think that that's quite viable. And like the last point I'll make is that we also can't conflate that with just long-running franchises in general that inherently have a lot of history to them.
Yeah,
like you can't chastise Spider-Man 3 when it comes out for having the homework required of Spider-Man 1, Miles Morales, and 2.
Yeah,
in the same way that you can't jump in and watch, I don't know, The Expendables 3 without watching. I mean, maybe you can, or like the Mission Impossible films, or any franchise.
That's kind of why when I was wanting to talk, like I kind of want to separate sequels. Like that's why I said like for my conversation is because I think that sequels are a wildly different thing, and to expect to be able to jump into Spider-Man 3 without even just watching like a compilation of like, here's the story so far.
I'm talking separately from sequels, because in the Next Spider-Man games, video games can leverage interactivity, and in both Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2, when you start a save file, they ask you the question, do you need a recap of the story so far?
Exactly.
Literally, literally that. So that's something that games can leverage if they want to. If there's interconnectedness that the developers anticipate might confuse players, the developers, if they want to, could literally implement an option saying,
Right.
do you need to be caught up? And if you do, here's what you can have. You can't do that in movies and TV. So that's something nice thing that games have.
I don't foresee this happening, but I really would love having something like that happen where it's like a Brandon Sanderson universe where it's like you have, because he has like a bunch of trilogies, right? Or some of them are bigger than trilogies, right? So he's got like the Mistborn series, he's got like oh my god, Warbreaker stuff. Like that's what the name of one of the books in the series, not the actual name of the series because I can't remember right now. He's got like all of these universes that kind of exist in this little bubble. But if you read all of these bubbles, like you get all of this cool stuff, like that's extra story.
Stephen King, Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, there's a bunch of it. And in books, it's just like an accepted thing, right? Because I guess it's all because it's like one author writing it. But wouldn't it be so cool if video game studios like could acknowledge each other? Because then we could get it faster, right? Because one studio can't make a bunch of games at once. I don't know. I really do think that like there's something there, and I hope we see it at some point, but I doubt it because video games do take so long, and they also developers don't very frequently work with each other in that way. So maybe someday. That would be cool. Great question, Taylor. It was a good discussion, you guys. We just sat and chatted about this for like 30, almost 40 minutes. So
yeah,
it was good. Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is it being episode 69 fitting. It was a very nice episode.
I know we didn't even I was like thinking like while I was laying in bed before I got up, I was like, I have to make some sort of 69 joke. And then I thought of one, and then I fake laughed in my head, and I was like, okay, so it wasn't funny because even I was fake laughing. So I didn't make it.
Oh well.
Well, I was gonna like make a joke, jokingly be like, since it's episode 69, what's your favorite experience in video games? And then kind of lead off of like, haha, I was gonna ask you about sex, but I didn't. That's funny. See, I like fake laughed in my head even when I said it, and I was like, all right, so we're not doing that joke.
All good. Well, thank you all so much for listening
to episode 69.
You can find us on YouTube at Save the Game Media, Twitter at Save Game Media, Discord. Links are all in the show notes. Where can people find you, Bree?
You can find me at Fabulous Brianna, FabulistBreanna.
Sweet. What about you, Sam?
Anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney. That is Heaney.
Including OnlyFans. You said everywhere.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You can find me on Discord. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for listening, everyone.
To episode 69.
Until next time. Episode 69. Bye-bye.